Okay, good morning everybody, and Chazak Baruch, thank you for joining us on this beautiful Thursday morning. Hayom Shenayim ve'arba'im Yom HaOmer. Today is the 42nd day of the Omer, Shehem Shisha Shavuot. So what does that mean, my friends? That means there's 1 week left to go. 6 weeks are done, and we are moving into the final week, the 7th week, as we approach the beautiful holiday of Shavuot. And I'd like to share with you a beautiful idea that I was reading from Rabbi Y.Y. Jacobson, connecting to our parasha, and I would like to connect it afterwards to another idea that I remember reading from Rabbi Norman Lamb on the holiday. So we're going to connect a few different ideas and hopefully make something meaningful out of today's class. Rabotai, our parasha, Parshat Bamidbar, the first parasha of the book of Bamidbar, deals with the way the Jewish people traveled in the desert. It's a very technical parasha. There's not a lot of stories, there's not a lot of juice, but there are many lessons, because every pasuk, my friends, is relevant. Every word and letter in the Torah matters to me, to you, today, right here, right now, in 2023. And therefore, let us study a pasuk that, again, if you would read it on Shabbat in the synagogue, you would think that there's nothing relevant about this pasuk. It's a very boring pasuk. And then it's a pasuk that if I were to give it to you, you would read it and say, okay, Rabbi, very nice pasuk, let's move on. But today I would like to show you how a pasuk could be so deep and so rich. Yoni, how are you? Nice to see you today. Welcome. Okay. So my friends, let us open the pasuk to the book of Bamidbar, all the way to the end of the parasha. Parashat Bamidbar, all the way to the end. Let's fast forward. And again, it's going to sound like in the beginning, there's no way, Rabbi, how are you going to make a speech out of this? It's so simple, technical, just paperwork, as we say, right? But it actually is very, very important. You know, when the Jewish people traveled through the desert, how many years did we travel for? How many years were we in the desert? We were traveling for 40. Excellent. 40 years. Okay? 40 years. Okay, I love it. 40 years. And when we traveled, we took with us the Mishkan. Remember, we built a house for God, and it was portable. So whenever we would travel, you can't move a building, so they would have to disassemble it, they would have to pack it onto wagons, and then it would move. And each tribe of Levi, remember there were mainly three sections in Judaism. There was Kohen, Levi, Israel. The Leviim were in charge of transporting the Mishkan. They were the ones that carried it from place A to place B. And within Levi, there were different families. There was Gershon, there was Kehat, there was Merari, and each family had its own vessels that it was in charge of. You're in charge of the menorah, you're in charge of the poles, you're in charge of the building, you're in charge of this, everyone was in charge of something else. However, there were 5 main vessels that before moving them, they had to be covered. Meaning, most of the things, you come in, you pick it up and you walk. But there are 5 things that are very precious that cannot be moved unless they are first covered. You know, when you're moving furniture, certain furniture, if you ever moved furniture, certain furniture has to be, you can just take it how it is. It's not such an important piece, it's not expensive, it's not valuable. You just take the furniture however it is, it gets scratched, nobody cares. But certain furniture is very, very expensive and very delicate, and you tell the movers, yeah, anyone have experience with movers? Okay. Probably not a good one, right? Okay, so if you tell the movers, listen, this couch, this very expensive couch, double wrap it, triple wrap it, you got to cover it because it's a very important piece. So same thing in the Mishkan. When we moved in the desert, there were 5 pieces of furniture that were very important. And the Torah says, make sure before the Leviim carry them, they would need to cover them. And who were the ones to cover them? Not the Leviim, the Kohanim. So Aharon and his sons would come in, they would cover these 5 items, and then the Leviim would come and carry them covered. Does it make sense? Make sense? I think it's very simple. Okay? So now, here we go. Look at this. What were the 5 pieces of furniture that had to be covered that were very important? The 5 are as follows. Okay? You could probably guess them. They're easy to guess. The Aron, the Holy Ark. Then the menorah, okay, okay, and the shulchan, the table that had the bread, and then the mizbeach that we did the ketoret on, the small altar, and then the big Mizbeach, the larger Mizbeach. Okay, there were two Mizbeachs, the big one outdoors and the small one indoors. And each one was brought different sacrifices, different things. Okay, so altogether 5 pieces of furniture. My friends, take a look at chapter 4. The Torah tells us right before Kehat, right before the Leviim could come in and carry these 5 pieces of furniture, the Pasuk says, Uba Aharon and his sons should come in. Vehoridu et parochet hamasach, they have to take down the curtain. Vechisuba, they have to cover Aron ha'edut. V'natenu alav kisui or tahash, they have to put on around the Aron a tahash covering, and techelet. So every piece of furniture, these 5 got a double wrapping. They got 2 wrappings, 2 cloths covering to protect them. What were the 2? One more time. What were the 2? Tahash and techelet. Does that make sense? Okay, very nice. And again, seems like a very technical pasuk, very simple, straightforward. You got to cover it. There's nothing interesting on this one, Rabbi. Let's go. Come on. Next pasuk, next stuff. This is simple. This is boring. Okay? But the truth is, my friends, I want to share with you today very, very powerful idea. Very powerful idea. And again, I think it'll just, first of all, it has many beautiful lessons. But also, it'll really give us an appreciation how every single pasuk is important and relevant, and we should never read Torah with just a regular glance attitude, right? You can't scroll through the scroll. Okay, you can't scroll through the scroll. Okay, so what can we learn from this pasuk? That you got to cover the Aron and all of these things. You got to cover them with tahash and with techelet. Well, what is tahash? What is tahash? Rashi, over here the Gemara says, take a look. The Gemara says that tahash, actually Onkelos translates, there was a big rabbi, Onkelos, and he translated the Torah 2,000 years ago to Aramaic. And it's an important work because from his translation you can learn a lot about what he's translating. So as an example, the tahash, we don't know what it is. But Onkelos translates tahash. And you know what he translated it as? Sasgona. Sasgona. And the Gemara explains, you know why it's called Sasgana? Sasgavna? Shesas begivanim harbe. Because this skin, this covering, was from an animal that had many colors. It had many colors. Now, I don't know personally an animal that has many, many colors. I mean, you have a leopard, you have, tiger. But it sounds like over here it was a magical creature. So unless you believe in Harry Potter, I don't know which animal this one was. It was some type of animal that had many, many colors on the outside. Okay, I'm sure there are many interesting animals today that you could probably point out to me. But I don't know which one specifically this one is. But whatever animal it was, this is a tahash. Tahash has many, many colors. So one covering was many colored. And then you had the techelet. What is techelet? Techelet, maybe you know it from the tzitzit. Techelet is one of the strings on tzitzit. It's what we call today turquoise. Okay, we're not really sure what it is today. We lost the mesorah, we lost the tradition of what specifically the techelet is. But the techelet historically it came from a snail. There was a certain snail that the blood, you would make a blue dye. You would make a blue dye for this, and it would create this color, this very beautiful bluish greenish color, and they would color the corner, the one out of the 4 strings of the tzitzit would be this techelet color. Look at the Rambam. The Rambam writes, Maimonides writes, techelet ha'amura b'Torah, when the Torah speaks of this techelet, this turquoise, it's a shade of blue, and it's demut rakia hanir'et le'en hashemesh. It's a blue that you could see, the purest color of the sky. If you have a non-cloudy day with sun, right there's a certain blue, that's the techelet. And this is a techelet that we would color the tzitzit. The Gemara comes and it elaborates. Take a look at the Gemara. Today we have people that have a lot of fake. People try to sell bootleg, right? They try to sell fake, fake art. People try to sell fake jewelry. People sell fake handbags. Yeah, it says Chanel, and it even comes with the receipt, and it comes with the certificate, right? You go to the shuk in Marrakesh, you could buy fake, genuine fake. Genuine fake. It looks real, it feels real, it's the Montclair, everything for $23, you know? And you bargain with the guy to save a few cents. You know what I mean? This is fake. Fake is not a new thing. Fake existed for many, many years, thousands of years. Even techelet, expensive blue. People try to make bootleg techelet. And the Gemara talks about this. Techelet en labdika. Gemara asks, is techelet checkable? If someone's coming to sell you techelet, how do you check if the guy's legit? How do you know if he's real? How do you know someone's selling you techelet tzitzit? It's expensive. He's charging you $300. How do you know if it's a lemon? How do you know if it's fake? How do you test out techelet? So look what the Gemara says. The Gemara says there's different ways. The Gemara says, Maiti hamira arkasa. Take a piece of hard leavened dough, bake it with the blue thread inside. If the color improved, it is valid. If not, it's not valid. Gemara gives a few different ways of testing it, but one of them is, you ready? The Gemara says, soak the blue thread in overnight type of mixture. If the color fades, it's invalid. If not, it's valid. What the Gemara is saying over here is that techelet, if it's authentic, you could mix it, you could soak it in a mixture of juices and stuff. Doesn't matter. The color will stay legit. Nothing could change the color of techelet. That's real. Real techelet doesn't change, doesn't waver. Fake techelet, the colors change. Okay? So these are the two types of coverings that we put around the Mishkan. The vessels in the Mishkan. They would have a tahash covering that was, again, multicolored. And they would have a techelet covering. They would have a covering of techelet. And what do these two represent, my friends? I think there's a very powerful lesson. You see, the Torah is telling us that when you're carrying the Aron, when you're carrying the Ark, when you're carrying Torah, when you're carrying Judaism, my friends, from one place to another, when you're trying to take the vessels from here to there, how do you transport Torah through Jewish history, through time? And how do you ensure that it doesn't get lost? You know, trends, what is a trend? A trend is something that's very in today, and tomorrow it's out. Clothing, today is in, tomorrow it's gone. In life, things are trendy, but they get outdated, they get lost, they become obsolete, they become no longer relevant. How do you take something like the Torah and make it relevant for 3,000 years? How could it be? How could it be that the Torah was popular then and it's popular now? It was vibrant then, it's vibrant now. It was alive then, it's alive now. Nothing stays alive for 3,000 years. The shelf life of things is a day or two, a year or two, a decade or two, a century or two. But for 3,000 years, that the Torah is alive and kicking? How could it be? How do you take a Torah and transport it through the desert, through time, and make sure that it doesn't get diluted? How do you take the Aron and carry it through the desert? That's the question. And the Torah says to ensure that the Torah remains alive and well, you need two coverings. You need the tahash and you need the techelet. And let us analyze one at a time. What is the tahash? Like we said, tahash has many colors. Number one, we have to realize that Judaism has diversity. Shev'im panim la Torah. There are 70 different ways of understanding the Torah. There are 70 ways of understanding a text. There are 70 different ways of understanding a reason for a mitzvah. There's no Torah is not monotone. Torah is not this. This is Torah and nothing else is Torah. Anyone that tells you that, they don't know what they're talking about. Torah is very diverse. The Torah has many, many colors. Like the tahash, Shiv'im panim la Torah. And I want to tell you something. When God gave the Torah, where were the Jewish people standing? Where were we? Anyone know? We were standing around the mountain. We were standing around the Har Sinai. And you know what that means? That we were standing around the mountain? That means that no two Jews saw the Torah from the same angle. One saw it from this way, one saw it that way, one saw it the other way. The Torah has many different ways of being understood. And Shiv'im Panim, and they could all be legit. You could hear a speech from one rabbi who's saying one idea, and you could hear another rabbi ask the same question and say a completely different idea. And you know what? Elu ve'elu divrei Elohim hayim. Both can be true. The Torah is not one color. Every soul has its music. Every soul has its way of expressing itself. Everyone's coming with their own background, with their own ideas, with their own feelings. And the way you study halakha, the way I study halakha, and they could both be right. They could both be right. That's one lesson from the Tahash. Never to think that Judaism needs to be narrowed down to one way. But there is another idea. There is another lesson, my friends, that we learn from the Tahash. You see, the Tahash, many colors, right? Think about all the colors that you would find on this piece of skin. But they're all part of the same animal. And what that means, the lesson here is, my friends, that Judaism, Torah, mitzvot, it's all part of one package. You can't pick and choose which mitzvah we like, which mitzvah we don't like, and sometimes we do that. Sometimes we say, you know what, I like blue. I'm not a big fan of orange. I like orange, I'm not a big fan of green. I like green, I don't like yellow. No. Tahash, it's all one animal. For Judaism to survive, in order for our values to ensure that they are being given over to our children. How do we make sure that our children will be as Jewish, if not more, than we are? How do I make sure that my son doesn't marry a goy, or that my grandson doesn't marry a goy if my son will marry Jewish? How do I know that in 50 years, in 100 years, 3 generations from now, how do I know that they're all going to be Jewish? That if I were to be alive, I would be proud of the decisions that my great-grandkids are making. How do I know? How do I ensure that Torah remains? And the answer to that is to remember that the Tahash, all the colors, all of halakha, needs to be a package deal. Sometimes there are halachot that we're comfortable with. This halakha I like. This idea I agree to. This is true. This for me I like. This one's easy. Some aspects of Judaism we agree to, but sometimes there are parts of Judaism, there are parts of halakha that we feel are irrelevant. They're outdated. Nah, this is not a mitzvah that matters. This one we don't really have to keep. This one we have to keep. This one's important. But we cut out a piece of the animal. We're cutting out a certain color of Judaism when we throw away certain halachot that we feel personally is irrelevant. We have to remember the Torah is a package deal. There are 613 commandments. Not 612 and not 614. 613. And we got to take them all. We got to keep them all. And even if we're not ready for a certain halakha, sometimes we're not ready. Sometimes we can only keep some. And I'm not ready there. I was born here, and I'm not on the level yet that I could keep this amount of kosher or this amount of Shabbat. That's okay. That's okay. If I'm not ready there, I'm going to get there. I'm going to grow there. But never cut out that piece of the skin. Remember that it's still there. It's still a goal. It should still be on my radar. Never to dismiss halakha and say, this is antiquated. This is irrelevant. This is not for me. I don't need to keep this. This is not an important one. Rabbi, I only keep the important fasts. You ever heard someone talk like that? Rabbi, I only keep the important laws. Pig is kosher. Pig is kosher. You can't eat pig. Yeah, you can't eat shrimp. That's important. Shrimp's important, and lobster is important. But what about meat and dairy? No, that's not so important. We're creating our own religion. We're creating our own religion. You go to a nutritionist and you tell her, give me a plan how to lose weight. And she gives you 5-10 things to do. Imagine a guy, how idiot, how stupid, if a guy goes to the nutritionist and says to her, listen, I know you wrote over here, no eating after 9 p.m. No. We're going to get rid of that one. I need to eat after 9 p.m. I sit at my bed and I'm binging and I need to eat after 9 p.m. And also, what is this thing you wrote over here? Don't eat before 12 a.m. You want me to do intermittent fasting? No, I don't do that. I wake up early. I need to eat. I'm going to eat early. And also, what does it mean? No carbs? Meat only twice a week? No. I eat meat 5 times a week. You say the guy's never going to lose weight. He's a fool. You don't tell the nutritionist what to do. She tells you what to do. A person has to realize that the Torah is a package deal. And to know, even if I'm not there yet, even if I'm not going to be able to keep it all today, but to at least know on my radar that this is a goal. This is where I need to get to. Maybe right now I'm not keeping Shabbat fully. Maybe I'm not ready yet. I'm growing in other areas, or I'm growing in different ways, but this is a goal. One day, hopefully, I'm going to reach this level that I'm able to fully keep Shabbat the right way. A person cannot create their own Torah. I like this mitzvah, I'm going to keep it. That mitzvah, not so much. We throw away. Tahash is one uniform animal. All the colors, they're all part of one animal. You got to keep the whole animal. You got to have the whole skin. All of it is important. You know, Ruth, we're coming up to the holiday of Shavuot. In 1 week from now, my friends, we'll be sitting around the table on Thursday night for the beautiful holiday of Shavuot. It's a 2-day holiday. Thursday night, Friday night, Saturday. And every one of us, God's going to come and say to you, He's not going to literally ask you, but God is really coming to every one of us and asking us on this holiday, do you want to renew your vow to Judaism? What does Judaism mean to you? If Hashem came down and we were on Har Sinai today, would we say yes? If Hashem said, I'm giving you now a chance to leave, you want it or no? You want Judaism or not? Would we say yes, or would we take off the kippah and say, I'm out? Would we say Na'aseh v'nishma like our ancestors did 3,300 years ago? That's really the question that's posed to every one of us next Thursday night. Do we still want to be part of this team? Do we want to be part of this religion? What are we doing to ensure that we will be part of this religion? And that our kids and grandkids, what am I doing today to make sure that my grandkids, because as hard as it is for whoever it is today to stay Jewish, it's going to be 10 times harder in another generation. So even if we do, but if my kids are not, then what did I gain? If my grandkids are not, what did I gain? It has a shelf life. It's gonna die. If not with me in a generation. So the chain's gonna be broken. What am I doing to make sure that the chain remains all the way from Moshe down for the rest of time within my family, as far as I can control, as far as I can ensure? We read the story on Shavuot of Ruth. Ruth was a non-Jew. Amazing. On Shavuot, maybe the most important holiday, we read about a non-Jew. And why do we read about Ruth, a non-Jew? Because this lady, Ruth, converted to Judaism. She ends up joining Judaism. She marries a nice Jewish boy. And the mother-in-law, Naomi, wasn't happy. Because these two non-Jewish girls, that Ruth and Orpah, she had 2 sons. They each married a Goya that converted. They technically converted. But she wasn't sure, is it legit? Is she sincere? She's just doing it as a fake. And what ended up happening was, unfortunately, the 2 husbands died. Ruth and Orpah's husbands both died. And now Naomi doesn't have any more sons. Her husband also is dead. And all she has are 2 daughter-in-laws with no sons. So she turns around and she starts heading back home, back to Israel, back to join her Jewish people. And her 2 daughter-in-laws follow her, Ruth and Orpah, which is an amazing way, by the way, it's an amazing lesson of commitment. Even though my husband died, I still want to be here. And Ruth and Orpah follow their mother-in-law Naomi. Naomi at first pushes them off. Naomi does what you're supposed to do when a person comes to convert. You're supposed to push them away. In Judaism, we're not looking for converts. Unlike other religions, you walk by a church, it may say, interested in being Catholic? Come on in, right? We don't have signs like that outside of the Knis. We don't say, want to be Jewish? Come on in. We're not inviting people. We're not welcoming. We're not looking for converts. Because you could stay a goy and you could be very righteous and you could attain eternity. You could get olam haba as a goy. You don't have to become Jewish to get paradise, to gain salvation. As a Jew, you need to stay in the faith. So we're not looking to convert people into Judaism. Yeah, but Ruth and Orpah, they follow their mother-in-law, and Naomi, the mother-in-law, she pushes them away. She says, "Nah, go home. It's okay." And the pasuk says that Orpah says, "Okay, love you." She gives her a hug and kiss, and she goes home. However, the pasuk says, Ruth davka ba. Ruth clings to her mother-in-law. Ruth says, "I ain't going nowhere." But Ruth says to her mother-in-law, "Don't touch me. Don't push me to leave you." Excuse me. Lashum nacharayich, to leave from behind. Because wherever you go, I go. Ubashet halini alin. One of the most poetic and beautiful lines, my friends. Wherever you go, I go. Wherever you sleep, I will sleep. Amech ami. Your people are my people. Elokayich Elokai. Your God is my God. Ba'asher tamuti amut. Wherever you die, I want to die. Vesham ekaver, and there I will be buried. Unbelievable, right? Many years later, it was Titanic, and right, who said to who? If you jump, I jump. Right? Rose and Jack, if you jump, I jump. But this is way many years before. The original, if you jump, I jump. Where you die, I die. Where you go, I go. Where you sleep, I sleep. Very powerful, very powerful. And eventually Naomi says, okay, so come with me. Yeah? And take a look at what the Gemara says. Gemara explains that actually there was a much deeper conversation going on between Ruth and Naomi. You see, Naomi starts pushing away Ruth. She's saying, you want to become Jewish? It's why? Why do you want to become Jewish? It's so hard to be Jewish. Stay a non-Jew. As a Jew, you can't have yichud. You know what's yichud, my friends? You ever heard of this halakha? I'm telling you halakha, okay? Whether you want to keep it or not is up to you, but I'm telling you halakha. Yachad, you're not allowed to be alone. You're not allowed to be alone with someone of the opposite gender if they're not your spouse. Yichud, you cannot be alone with someone that you're not allowed to marry. Okay? You can't be alone in a private room. Okay? You have to make sure the door's open. You have to make sure people could come in. You cannot go alone in a room with someone of the opposite gender. That's called yichud. So she says to Ruth, we're not allowed to have yichud. So Ruth says back, Ba'asher talini alin. The way you lodge, I lodge. It's okay. I'm ready to accept it. The way you sleep, I sleep. If you sleep alone, I'll sleep alone. I won't sleep with another man until he's my husband. Wow. Well, asur lan tchum Shabbat. You're not allowed to go past the boundaries of Shabbat. There's a certain limit that you're allowed to travel on Shabbat outside of your city. Even if you're not carrying, you're not allowed to travel past a certain amount. So Ruth says back, Ba'asher telechi alech. Wherever you go, I go. Wow. Well, we have 613 mitzvot. Your people is my people. We have avodah zarah. You can't serve other gods. Elokai Elokai. Your God is my God. Well, we have 4 types of death if you violate certain sins. The way you die, I die. And what about the way we're buried? We have halachot of burial. However you bury me, that's the way I want to be buried halachically. We don't cremate. I want to be buried the Jewish way. You see, there's something much deeper going on over here. And that is, Naomi is saying to Ruth, as a non-Jew, sometimes a non-Jew will focus on the big mitzvot. Sometimes people come to Judaism with an attitude of the big. Don't do idolatry, don't murder. But there's also small mitzvot, Ruth. There's small ideas in Judaism that also matter. You have to be careful where you pass the Tchum Shabbat. It's amazing that Naomi gives to Ruth, in the same sentence, she gives her laws of Avodah Zarah, and she gives her laws of not walking past the Tchum Shabbat, the 2,000 Amot. And what she's telling Ruth is, if you want to become Jewish, both big and small are equally important. There's no such thing as mitzvot that are big and mitzvot that are small. No such thing as idolatry is important and then a little detail of Shabbat is not important. No. They're all important. It's all part of the tahash. It's all part of the same animal. It's all equal. A person doesn't have the right, doesn't have the discretion to say, these mitzvot I want to keep, these mitzvot I don't want to keep. This is Judaism. It's a package deal. It's a package deal. And a lot of people, when you look at other Jewish sects, when you look at Reform, you look at Conservative, they made a very big mistake. Because the mistake that they made was, they said, we'll keep the important mitzvot. We'll keep the big mitzvot. But small mitzvot are not so important. Okay, big deal if you drive on Shabbat, but you come in a shul. Big deal if you eat a little bit of this type of food. And so they started reforming. Okay, you don't have to wash your hands until yadayim for bread. It's okay, as long as it's kosher bread. Big deal, you didn't wash your hands. Your hands are clean. You don't have to wash netilat yadayim. You don't have to wash, big deal. This is what other groups started doing. And unfortunately, you see that history has proven that once you start chipping away at the small mitzvot, it doesn't end there. The small start growing and growing, like God forbid a cancer. Small becomes very, very big. When you do away with small mitzvot, eventually, guaranteed, know this, it never stops there. It won't stop at the small. Eventually it's going to escalate and graduate till you do away with all of Shabbat, till you do away with all of Judaism, till you throw away an entire God. It starts small. It starts with a little thing. Nobody becomes corrupt overnight. No one's robbing a bank overnight. You know how you start robbing a bank? It starts with a very small mistake. A little bit dishonesty. Little bit. I remember when I was a teacher in Flatbush, I once asked Rabbi Eliach, alav Shalom, who just passed away last year or a couple of years ago. I remember asking him, he was guiding me as a teacher. He helped me a lot. Amazing person. And I caught a kid cheating on a test and I wasn't sure how to approach it. So I asked Rabbi Eliach for his opinion, for his expertise. And listen to what he said. He told me a very powerful story. My friends, listen to this story. You're going to love this story. Very powerful. Rabbi Eliach told me before he became a principal in Flatbush, he was a high school teacher. And one day, he caught a kid cheating time after time after time. So one day he said, enough is enough. He took the kid, he took the paper, he dragged him to the principal's office. He said, this kid's cheating too many times, we got to suspend him. We got to teach him a lesson. And the principal, this kid who was cheating, was his father was very influential on the board, very powerful. So the principal didn't want to really do any punishments to the kid. So he basically told the Rabbi Eliach, he said to him, okay, just give him a 0, make him take a retake. He said, principal, listen, I disagree. I think we have to teach a kid a lesson. He's cheated too many times. He said, yeah, but his father's very powerful on the board. We're not going to really be able to do anything. Just let it go. Give him a 0, make him take a retake. Okay, you're the principal. It's up to you. He says, I gave him a 0. And take a retake, whatever it was. And that's it. Nothing ever happened to the kid. He ended up cheating his way through high school. He graduated valedictorian, top of the class. Makes sense. And he became a very, very important judge. Went to law school and became very important, very wealthy, very prominent position. Rabbi Eliach says, fast forward many, many, many years. And I'm already now the principal of Flatbush. And every morning I come into the school and I would head to the library and grab the paper and I would read a little bit of the news just to stay up to date. And he said, all of a sudden one day, I see on the front page, I see a face of a person in handcuffs. And I look closely and I see, it's this student. It's this student of mine from 20 years ago in handcuffs. And I'm reading the article and basically he accepted bribes and he's looking at many, many years in jail. And when I read this, I started crying, he said. And I started hitting myself, and I started slapping myself. And I said, Ze ashmati. All of this is my fault. If we would have taught him 30 years ago that it's not okay to cheat, then maybe he wouldn't be going to jail for many years because of dishonesty. No one starts one day being dishonest, accepting bribes for millions. It doesn't start there. It starts very, very, very small. It starts with a little bit of sheker. It starts by cheating on a test. It starts by being a little bit dishonest on taxes. It starts with very small things. No one becomes a gambler and puts their house on the line on day one. You know how gambling begins? You know how addictions begin? Gambling addictions start with one bet. And by the way, it's a bet that sometimes you'll even do for free because BetMGM or FanDuel or wherever gambling website is giving you a free $500. Free $500. It starts there. It starts with one $500 bet, and then before you know it, you're putting your own 500 and 1,000 and then 10,000 and then 100,000 and then millions and millions and millions until the person's addicted. There's a reason hotels are giving free stays to people that gamble a lot. Nothing's for free. They know it's not free. Very silly, a guy who thinks it's free. It's not a free stay. They're not putting you in the penthouse for free, trust me. They know you're blowing millions. They know you're losing thousands and tens of thousands and hundreds of thousands. And it all starts with one. Addiction, any addiction, smoking, starts with one. And every addict that's in rehab knows, that's in recovery knows. They don't even have a taste of kiddush. Why not? A little kiddush. They know this little kiddush could open the door, and the second you open the door, it could bring in all the problems in the world. So Judaism, my friends, is a package. And again, maybe we're not ready to keep it all, but we have to believe in it all. We have to believe in it all. We have to know this is the package. And one day I'll get there. Even a nutritionist, by the way. You go to a nutritionist and she may tell you, listen, I want you to do this, this, and this. And you're going to say to her, oh, I'm allowed to have sugar? She's going to smile and say, no, really, you shouldn't have sugar. But you're not there yet. I'm trying to get you first to lose a little bit of weight, to this, and then we'll work on the sugar. Sugar is a very, very tall order for where you are right now. You're very far from that. But yes, it's a goal. Yes, we're going to get there, but not today. So even a nutritionist will know some things you can't tell the guy he's not ready for. And so too, my friends, in Judaism. There are certain mitzvot maybe we're not ready for, but we have to know that that's the goal. We're going to get there one day. Maybe in a year, maybe in 10, but that should be on our radar. And every mitzvah is important. Naomi says to Ruth, don't think for a second that coming to Judaism, you could only worry about idolatry and about Shabbat. No. There's many, many tiny mitzvot and details. And not only is big mitzvot of Shabbat, within Shabbat, you can't walk 2,000 amot. Small. Are you ready for that? Know that that's going to be something that one day you're going to have to keep. The Tchum Shabbat, because if you throw away small, you're going to end up bowing down to idols one day. Today, it's small. Next year, you're bowing down to idols. It never, because in life, evil always pushes the envelope further and further and further. And today it gets you to do this sin, and once you're comfortable there, then it starts pushing down another sin. Then another, then another. And we know that. Think about when we're trying to do the wrong thing, when you're trying to convince someone else to do the wrong thing. How do you convince them? You don't tell them, come and let's do this big sin. First you tell them, just let's go out for a little drink. Then you tell them, just a little bit, goodbye hug, a goodbye kiss, and a little bit of touching, and a little bit, and a little bit, and a little bit, and it leads to a person ends up sleeping with this person that's forbidden to them. And we know you can't start there. You got to start small, baby steps. And evil also knows baby steps. And my friends, in life, we have to realize the power of small. We have to realize how important the smallest mitzvah is. We never throw away small things. It's a package deal. That's the lesson from the Tahash. All the colors. We don't have the right to pick and choose which color we like, which color we don't like. This mitzvah is important, that one's not so important. This sin I stay away from, that sin, not a big deal, it's okay, we don't really have to keep it. It's not a real sin, Rabbi. That's a very big mistake. In order for Judaism to survive through the desert, through history, if you want to take the Aron, if you want to take the Ark and Judaism and the Torah from place A to place B, if you want to transport it properly, we need to remember, my friends, the only way it will safely travel is if it's covered with Tahash. If we remember that, it's all a package deal. All the colors and all the halachot matter. Every halacha matters. The tiniest one. Nobody stubs their toe on a mountain. It's the small little pebbles that bring a person down. And this is, I think, a very important lesson as we approach the holiday of Shavuot. That's that all of the Tahash is important. And that's the lesson that we learned from this multicolored coat. But my friends, and we'll end with this. We said there were two coverings, remember? There was the Tahash covering, the multicolored covering, but there was also the Techelet covering. And what does that represent? What is Techelet? Techelet is the turquoise cover. And remember we said earlier, how do they check if it's legit turquoise or fake turquoise? How do you know if it's real Techelet or fake Techelet? And the Gemara gave us a test. You know what the test was? Put it under tremendous heat. Put it in different liquids. See if the color remains true. And that, I think, is another very important lesson. If we want our Judaism to survive, we have to have techelet. In one word, in English, commitment. That no matter what comes my way, no matter what heat, no matter what challenges, no matter what tests, no matter what is thrown, no matter what challenge God sends me, or no matter what challenge life sends me, I'm committed. To be like Techelet means that my color, my values, never waver. My values are always consistent. I stay blue no matter what. I keep Shabbat. Even if I'm in my comfort zone in Brooklyn, even if I'm away on vacation, I keep the same level of Shabbat. commitment. I keep the same level of kosher. Some people, they have two separate rules, sets of rules. When they're at home, they have one set of rules. When they're away, they have another set of rules. When we're home, I keep this. When we're away, it's okay. We can have this, we can have that. Whoa, what happened? What happened? Where's the techelet? Where's the consistency? Techelet means it's blue through and through. You could throw liquids, you could throw tests, you could throw heat. It stays blue. In order for the Torah to remain, we got to stay techelet, we got to stay committed. We have to be able to sacrifice sometimes for our values. That's the only way our Judaism will survive in our family and for generations to come. Torah never changes. The Torah needs to be blue, it needs to be a part of us. Some blues, it's not part of this, it's not part of it. It's fake blue. It's on the outside, it's blue. But you wash it, it washes right away. It's not really part of it. And this is the difference between Ruth and Orpah. Ruth, her Judaism was part of her. Orpah, she had Judaism, but it was superficial. It was on the outside. A little bit of rain, a little bit of heat, a little bit of sun, and it comes right off. She never internalized the values that she learned. She never made it part of her. She was never ready to sacrifice. Take a look at when these two girls bid farewell to their mother-in-law. Naomi says, go back home. So what does Orpah do? She gives her mother-in-law a kiss. Vatishak Orpah lahamota. She kisses her. But Ruth, davka ba. She clings to her. The difference between Orpah and Ruth in history. And Orpah, what happens to her? She goes back home, nothing ever becomes out of her. Ruth, davka ba, she clings to Naomi, and what happens to her? She becomes the great-grandmother of David HaMelech. She goes back home, she marries Boaz, who has Oved, who has Yishai, who has David. In life, if we want to be successful, we got to have davka. We got to cling. We got to have commitment. Our techelet has to be part of us. It can't be superficial. Our mitzvot observance, our Judaism has to be something that's real, that's inside. Otherwise, we're just like Orpah. Otherwise, it's a kiss. A kiss is very nice, but it's on the outside. A kiss is superficial. Real Judaism has to be part of me. It has to cling to me. Davka ba, to be not a subject. Torah, some schools, they teach Torah as a subject. You have math and you have science and you have Torah. Torah is not a subject. Torah is a lifestyle. Torah is a lifestyle. Torah is part of me. It's not just what I learn. It's not just an intellectual exercise. Torah is something that I live. Torah is a way of life. Ki hamavet yafrid beni ubenech. Ruth says to her mother-in-law, only death will do us apart. I'm ready to die for my mitzvot. These are my values and I'm committed to them. Ruth is a davek type of Jew. Orpah, she was good, but she was a nashak type of Jew. She was a kissing type of Jew. She was a superficial type of Jew. And historically in life, my friends, the clingers prevail over the kissers. Because the kissers, they get washed away in history. It's only if we're davek that we're around to tell the story. Ve'atem hadevekim b'Adonai Elohechem hayim kulechem hayom. You, the people that are davek to Hashem, ve'atem hadevekim. If you're clinging to Hashem, if we cling to our religion, if we cling to our values, then we will be around, we will be chayim, we will be alive and well for us and our children, our grandchildren, and many, many generations to come. Be'ezrat Hashem, I think it's a very powerful lesson. Lessons from the Tachash, lessons from the Techelet. My friends, we should be zocheh on this holiday of Shavuot as it approaches, to be able to commit to our religion, to our values, to become one with our mitzvot, one part of our Torah, not just something that's on the outside, not something that with a little bit of test, with a little bit of water, it gets washed away. To remember that Judaism is diverse, multicolored, but to remember that it's also one animal. It's a package deal. Be'ezrat Hashem, with all of these, we'll be able to commit, to recommit, to renew our vows on this amazing holiday of Shavuot. Be'ezrat Hashem, for us and our families, and for all of Am Yisrael. Amen. We'll stop over here. Have a wonderful day, and hopefully we'll see you all tomorrow. Bye-bye.